Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into a significant development today.
Yeah, a big one. NFL legend and current media personality Shannon Sharpe is facing a new lawsuit.
Filed in Nevada, right?
That's right. News broke over the Easter weekend, actually. The plaintiff is using a pseudonym, Jane Doe.
And the allegations are extremely serious.
They really are. We're talking assault, sexual assault, battery, and sexual battery. The latest incidents allegedly happened as recently as January 2025.
And the attorney bringing the suit is Tony Buzbee from Texas.
Correct. Tony Buzbee. You might recognize the name. He's represented accusers against other big names like Sean Diddy Combs, and he was involved in cases against Jay-Z years back too.
Okay. So today we're going to unpack this. We'll look at the allegations themselves, the initial legal takes, Shannon Sharpe's response.
Yeah, try to get a clear picture based on what's out there from sources like Law and Crime, Stephen A. Smith's show, NFL on NBC.
Exactly. Give you the essential info to understand how this is unfolding right now.
Okay, so let's start with the core allegations in this Jane Doe lawsuit.
Where did it begin?
According to the complaint, Jane Doe met Sharpe back in 2023. She was 19 at the time, met him at a gym in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And the suit alleges Sharpe was very insistent on getting her number, pursuing her.
And there was something about an NDA right at the start.
Yeah, that's a striking detail.
Well,
The lawsuit claims before they even met up outside the gym for the first time, he demanded she sign a non-disclosure agreement.
wow. Did she?
No, she apparently refused. And the lawsuit says he eventually dropped it, and they started, a relationship.
Okay, so the lawsuit acknowledges it was consensual at first.
It does state that initially,
Mm.
but it alleges things took a turn around October 2024, became manipulative, controlling. That's the claim.
And a big part of that is the recording aspect.
A huge part. The suit claims Sharpe insisted on recording their sexual activity routinely, and crucially, sometimes allegedly without her knowledge or permission.
And that he shared these recordings.
That's the allegation, yes. Shared the videos.
The complaint also includes some really disturbing alleged statements.
It does. Specifically, it claims Sharpe told Jane Doe he wanted to do things to her that would effectively make no other man want her.
That sounds familiar. Didn't we hear something like that in relation to another case?
We did, and we'll definitely circle back to that because it's a significant parallel.
Okay. But the absolute core of the Jane Doe suit are the assault claims.
Yes. The most serious allegations. 2 instances of alleged anal rape in Las Vegas in October 2024.
Despite her saying stop.
The lawsuit explicitly states she pleaded for him to stop during these alleged incidents.
And then another alleged assault more recently.
Yes, tragically, the complaint details another alleged sexual assault in January 2025, also in Vegas, again claiming she bugged him to stop and that he refused to use protection. The lawsuit goes into pretty graphic detail about that alleged January incident.
Okay, let's shift to the legal perspective. What are initial thoughts from legal analysts?
Well, Law and Crime Network spoke with civil attorney John Clune. One of the first things he noted was the timing.
Filing on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, he found that pretty unusual for such a major lawsuit.
Does he think it'll be easy to dismiss?
Not likely, according to Clune.
Yeah.
He explained that in cases like this, where it really boils down to one person's word against another's about what happened, well, you usually can't get those thrown out early.
It needs to go further.
Right. It often requires a trial, or at least significant discovery, to sort through the conflicting accounts. The court needs to hear both sides.
What about her using Jane Doe? Will she be able to stay anonymous?
Clune addressed that. He said, while it's possible the courts generally prefer transparency, names out in the open.
Unless there's a specific danger.
Exactly. If there are clear risks to her safety or other really compelling reasons, a judge might allow it. But it can be an uphill battle to stay anonymous through the whole process.
Okay, now, the lawsuit does say the relationship started consensually. How does that play legally when later acts are alleged to be non-consensual?
That's a key point. Clune mentioned the defense will almost certainly use that prior consensual relationship. They'll likely argue it undermines her credibility regarding the later claims.
Makes sense from a defense perspective.
Sure. But Clune also felt that jurors today are perhaps more aware of the complexities that, sexual violence can happen within relationships that were once consensual.
So it's not automatically disqualifying for her claim?
No, not necessarily. It's a factor the defense will use, but maybe not the knockout blow it might have been perceived as years ago.
And the standard of proof here, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, like in criminal court.
Correct. Big difference. This is a civil case. The standard is preponderance of the evidence.
Which means?
Basically, the jury just needs to be convinced that it's more likely than not. So just over 50% likely that Jane Doe's version of events is true.
Just slightly more believable than the other side.
Exactly. And because of that lower threshold, Clune really emphasized how crucial objective evidence could be.
Like texts, videos.
Precisely. Text messages, emails, and especially any video recordings. That kind of evidence could be incredibly persuasive for a jury trying to decide whose account is more probable.
The lawsuit is asking for a lot of money. Over $50 million reported.
Yeah, the sums are significant. Clune broke down the categories requested.
Okay.
You've got general damages. That's for emotional distress, pain, and suffering, listed at over $10 million. Then special damages, also over $10 million, which cover tangible economic losses like therapy costs, maybe lost earning potential.
Right.
Then there are punitive damages meant purely to punish Sharpe for the alleged conduct set at $20 million. And finally, another $10 million in statutory penalties under specific Nevada laws.
That's a huge amount. Did Clune think it was realistic?
He acknowledged they were large figures, but he didn't dismiss them out of hand. He mentioned other high-profile cases where juries have awarded substantial damages, so it's not impossible, though still very high.
Okay, so facing all of that, how did Shannon Sharpe respond? It sounds like it was pretty quick and strong.
Extremely quick and forceful. His team put out a statement almost immediately.
What was the gist?
They called the lawsuit a blatant and cynical attempt to shake down Mr. Sharpe for millions of dollars. Said it was full of lies and distortions. Pretty much a total denial.
And they released some text messages.
They did, yeah. They released messages they claim were between Sharpe and Jane Doe, described as sexually explicit. Seems like their immediate strategy is to paint the whole relationship as consensual, using those texts as proof.
Then Sharpe himself spoke out.
Yeah, he posted a video statement on social media. He personally echoed that shakedown language.
Did he mention the lawyer, Buzbee?
Oh, yeah. He specifically called out Tony Buzbee, and he brought up Buzbee's history, suggesting Buzbee targets successful black men. That's a point Stephen A. Smith also touched on later.
What was Sharpe's version of the events in the lawsuit?
In his video, Sharpe claimed the main encounter Jane Doe described was consensual and, in fact, initiated by her at her invitation.
He even named another person.
He did. He suggested it was some kind of coordinated setup involving another woman he named as Gabriela Zuniga, who apparently also goes by Carly on OnlyFans.
Okay, so he's saying it was a setup. What about the video aspect? That seems central.
Absolutely critical. Sharpe addressed it directly in his video.
Yeah.
He alleged that Buzbee has a sex tape and plans to release just a short edited clip to make him look bad, out of context.
So he's trying to get ahead of that?
Seems like it. He challenged Buzbee to release the entire video, claiming he, Sharpe, doesn't even have a copy himself. So this focus on video, what it shows, who has it, is it edited, is clearly a major battleground.
What did his ESPN colleague Stephen A. Smith have to say?
Smith talked about it on his YouTube show. He was careful to say he has no firsthand knowledge of what actually happened.
Yeah.
But he did say that ESPN and the parent company, Disney, are taking it very seriously and are reviewing the situation internally.
Did Smith mention the timing? There were rumors about a huge podcast deal for Sharpe just before this broke.
He did note that. Mentioned reports of a potential $100 million podcast deal that were circulating right around the time the lawsuit news hit. He didn't explicitly link them, but he definitely pointed out the timing.
And Smith said he talked to Sharpe.
Yeah, he said he spoke with Sharpe, who, according to Smith, vehemently denied everything. But Smith also stressed how seriously Disney is treating the whole thing.
Okay, now back to something you mentioned earlier. This Jane Doe lawsuit isn't the only legal issue Sharpe is dealing with right now.
No, and this adds a whole other dimension. Raw and Crime Network reported on this, too. There's a separate ongoing lawsuit against Sharpe filed back in December 2023.
Where was that one filed?
In New York.
Huh?
And the plaintiff is a woman named Michelle Owens. Interestingly, she's representing herself pro se.
And what is she suing him for?
It's a list. Defamation, libel, slander, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent infliction of emotional distress. She's seeking at least $14 million.
Wow. And are the claims similar to Jane Doe's?
This is where it gets really interesting. Reports say yes. Some of Evans's claims seem to echo Jane Doe's. Like, Evans claims she tried to distance herself from Sharpe because of alleged infidelity.
Okay.
And that he reacted with rage. But the most striking parallel is that alleged quote.
The one about making it so no other man would want her.
Exactly. Evans's lawsuit reportedly claims Sharpe said that to her during an alleged sexual assault. And Jane Doe's lawsuit, filed over a year later in a different state by a different person, claims Sharpe said almost the exact same disturbing thing to her.
That is quite specific. And disturbing.
It really is. The fact that such a unique and troubling alleged statement appears in two separate lawsuits filed by two different women. It definitely raises questions.
How could that be interpreted, legally speaking?
Well, John Clune, the attorney Law and Crime spoke with, touched on this. It could be seen by a jury as evidence of a pattern of behavior on Sharpe's part.
Or the defense might argue something else.
Right. The defense might argue and suggest the allegations are coordinated, perhaps not credible. It really complicates things for both sides.
Has Sharpe responded to the Evans lawsuit as well?
Yes. In that New York case, he filed a sworn affidavit denying her claims completely. He's basically flipped the script, alleging she was manipulative and threatening, harassing him with calls and texts.
So total denials in both cases with conflicting stories all around.
Pretty much. It's a real he said, she said situation multiplied by 2 with this disturbing quote linking them.
Let's circle back to the video evidence because that seems potentially decisive, especially in the Jane Doe case. Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk really hammered this point.
He did. Florio, drawing from reporting and a statement by Lanny Davis, who's involved with Sharpe's legal team, emphasized the significance of a video. Apparently, some video was shown to Sharpe's lawyers before the lawsuit was even filed.
Suggesting maybe settlement talks were happening.
Possibly, or at least an attempt to show them evidence.
Right.
But the core of the defense's argument, as Florio laid it out, seems to be that the video they were shown was edited.
Edited how?
Edited, they claim, to misrepresent what was actually happening. They contend the full, unedited video shows a consensual interaction, not what Jane Doe alleges.
So the unedited version is the holy grail here.
That's how Florio portrayed it. He basically said the unedited video, if it exists and can be produced, could be the single most important piece of evidence in the whole case. Forget the he said, she said. What does the tape actually show?
And legally, how do they get that tape if Jane Doe's side has it?
Through the discovery process. Florio explained her. Sharpe's lawyers will absolutely demand the unedited video be produced.
And if they can't or won't produce it?
That could be a major problem for Jane Doe's case, Florio stressed. If it's been destroyed, or if they refuse to hand over the full unedited version, that could raise serious legal issues and potentially damage their credibility.
Did Florio mention settlement again? Is that still likely now that it's filed?
He talked about the potential role of a mediator, maybe like a retired judge, stepping in.
To try and broker a deal.
Yeah. He suggested a good mediator could help both sides realistically assess their chances, look at the evidence or lack thereof, consider the costs and risks of a trial.
And maybe find some middle ground.
Exactly. Reach a resolution that maybe nobody loves, but that avoids the massive uncertainty and expensive litigation. Florio seemed to think this would have been a better route even before the public filing to kind of contain the situation.
Well, this has certainly been a deep dive into a situation that's incredibly complex and seems to be evolving quickly.
It really is. You've got these incredibly serious allegations against a very public figure.
Yeah.
Huge potential consequences legally and for his reputation.
And just fundamentally conflicting stories. Sharpe's emphatic denials versus Jane Doe's detailed claims, plus the whole context of the earlier lawsuit.
Right. The legal strategies are starting to emerge, the focus on consent, the shakedown narrative, the critical role of this alleged video evidence. Wow. It's a lot to track.
And that second lawsuit, the Evans case, with the similar allegations, especially that specific quote, it just adds another layer of, well, intrigue and complexity.
Absolutely. Raises questions about potential patterns, credibility. It's something that will likely be explored thoroughly if these cases proceed.
Ultimately, like in any legal battle, the truth is what's being sought through investigation, discovery, evidence, maybe eventually a trial. But right now, there are far more questions than answers.
Definitely.
So for you listening, what stands out most to you right now? Is it the conflicting narratives, the potential video, the existence of the second lawsuit? What piece of information feels most critical to understanding this?
And what might change the picture? Future investigations, maybe the release of that video Sharpe is talking about, testimony. It's clearly an ongoing story.
It really serves as a stark reminder, doesn't it? The complexities and the potentially devastating consequences when fame, power, and serious allegations like sexual misconduct collide. Lots to think about.